Here we go.
Here we go.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay, what's up, man? Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Two Tongues Podcast, a podcast where we talk shit.
We do talk shit, a whole bunch of it. Um, I'm feeling awkward right now.
Don't, but I'm still having trouble hearing you in my headphones a little bit.
Hello.
That's better. That's better.
You
Turn
should
it
probably
up
turn it up. Yeah, turn it up in my headphones a little bit too.
in your headphones. Oh,
Yeah.
jeez. Are you number two headphones?
I don't
I
know.
don't know if you were or not.
It's not changing at all.
Mm,
Hello.
technical. Is
Hello.
it better?
Yeah. Not really, but
Okay, whatever. Fuck it.
it's acceptable. So,
Bonjour. Good morning, man.
Guten Morgen.
Just for everyone's information, it's 8:31 in the morning
8:31.
on the Lord's Day.
It's not very bright out, but
I wouldn't know. I haven't seen it.
yeah, not
I
made
haven't
your way
left, I
outside
haven't
yet.
left Plato's Cave yet this morning.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I said I was feeling awkward.
Why would that be, Kyle?
Why would that be?
Let the audience know. Let them in on this situation.
Um,
There it is.
There it is indeed. I like being able to see it better.
I don't, and I'm turning it off as soon as you stop talking.
So yeah, we are gonna be on YouTube now, I guess.
Yeah, we decided.
Did you figure that out?
No, we'll figure it
No.
out. We'll figure it out.
All
One
right.
step at a time.
One step at a time.
First step, the khakis. Second step, webcams.
Yep,
Third step, fame and fortune.
it's coming.
And delicious black coffee. Delicious black coffee.
In a Yoda cup, baby Yoda.
I was telling you about this a minute ago. Maybe I've talked about it before, but the cup says Yoda, best dad, Chuck. And then it has my girls' names, your favorite child, and then both my children's names, which is kind of funny also because it's like you can't pick a favorite anyway. You realize that. But the custom names are there, both my kids' names. Although my name was not customized. They forgot on the website to put my name in there, so it says Yoda Best Dad Chuck, and that's not my name. That's not my name.
It's close.
Huh?
It's close.
It is close.
It's got a similar amount of letters. It starts with the same two letters.
It does start with the first two letters. You're right.
But
it's pretty much the same.
Close, but no cigar.
I think I'm being nitpicky. Actually, it's a beautiful cup.
It is a beautiful cup. The sentiment is there, you know.
Listen, it's early, and I was up a little late last night, and like the bags under my eyes, dude. I can see it in the camera. Point is, guys, we're on YouTube now. You guys are going to be able to see our faces, but I'm getting rid of this, man.
See, I just work like I like seeing it because I work. No, I do because if I don't have it up there, I don't pay attention to what I'm doing. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you gotta have to get better at that, man.
Nah, I don't want to.
Yeah, change is hard. You know, we're in Jordan Peterson's chaos right now.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Cameras on us. Boy. Well, if we have weird mannerisms or whatever, the world's gonna know.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it.
So we missed last week. That was my fault.
Yeah, it was your fault.
I woke up. We usually start early in the morning. I woke up and it was like 4 minutes until Kyle was supposed to be at my house, and I said, "There's no effing way I'm going to be able to do the podcast today."
I was rolling towards you,
so I called him up, and it was like my best calling off school. Calling your parents and pretending you're sick voice. You know, it's like, but I was sick.
It was pretty good. You sounded bad.
Like, Kyle, man, there's no way. There's no way, and there wasn't any way. I was completely useless.
That entire day, right?
That entire next day, yeah.
You going hard in the drinking game, you know. It's more and more dangerous, I guess, as you get older, you know.
It's one way of putting it.
Danger.
Yeah. So I was reluctant to bring it up. It's been on my mind though. This so just to fill in the blanks here for everyone listening, like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Last week on Saturday, I went out with some friends, had a couple drinks, you know, as one does, and anyway, it went a little too far, went over the edge at one point, and I went to bed early. I woke up in the middle of the night. I was very, very sick because I drank too much. But that's disturbing. Like the quality of the hangover when you're an older person, you know, it's not the same situation as when you were younger, and it's like devastating. It's devastating to your body.
Yeah, you definitely don't just bounce back. I mean, When I was young, a bad hangover was bad. I haven't really had any hangovers though in a long time.
Yeah.
I just don't really.
I never did a lot of heavy drinking,
Yeah.
so I didn't have very many of these experiences.
Oh, I had hangovers when I was young for sure, but yeah.
Did it take you a whole day to get over it?
No.
So,
I mean, I was young.
Yeah.
You know?
So for me, it was like a whole 24 hours of being useless, and the whole time I was nauseous, like pretty much the whole time. And I just laid around on the couch, and there were some things that eventually made me start feeling better. But the most disturbing part about it was not how terrible I felt physically, although that's like punishment. It's like gonna make me think twice about ever drinking heavily, like in the near future.
Well, the longer you wait,
at a minimum,
the longer you wait, the worse it's gonna be.
Well, I don't have any intention to. I don't ever really want to get that drunk again. It was.
Well,
I'm sure. Listen, I'm sure it was fun, but the worst part about it is
sometimes it's not.
Yeah. Yep. The worst part about it is not the hangover. The worst part about it is the hole in my memory of the latter part of the evening. And that's the part I'm embarrassed to talk about.
The memory hole.
The memory hole.
Just a segment of your life gone.
Gone. And none of it came back. And it was kind of a long stretch of the night. That happened to me once or twice before when I was younger, and I drank a little bit too much. But it was always the tail end of the night. It was never like anything significant. This time around, it was like hours of the early evening, and it's bothersome, man. It's bothersome.
Day drinking is a problem.
It's a problem.
You start drinking early. That's like a lot of time for dumb things to happen. Yeah. It's better to start later in the day.
Or do your day drinking, but then stop. That's the problem. Nobody knows how to stop.
Stopping.
Once you get over that edge, there's no stopping.
There's a stigma about being a quitter.
Quitters never win.
But do they?
And quitters.
I think cheaters never prosper. Too.
You heard that.
I think the cheaters do prosper, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what they don't tell you about.
Yeah, that's what they don't tell you about.
The cheaters do prosper.
Yeah, man.
It's fucking assholes.
I prospered from cheating sometimes.
Yeah, it's a real problem, though.
In the past.
Yeah, but did you?
It's a good question.
Prosper in the long term?
It's a good question. Probably not.
Yeah.
Well, maybe too.
You think?
Yeah, I mean, like cheating at school on a test, you don't have to take that test now, you passed it. And it was all stupid bullshit probably anyway, so.
Listen, I never like cheated on a test.
Oh,
I never cheated off another person. No. There have been times where I wrote like a formula down on my palm or something, like if I had to memorize it. Yeah. It was like very, very minimal cheating. Yeah. I'm a pretty honorable man,
You are an honorable man. I cheated a couple of times, but more than anything, I just failed. I just didn't do it, skipped the class, whatever.
There's a huge difference between you and me.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't skip class, I don't think, once ever.
Never?
Not until college.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah. I never left at lunch, never came back. I never did that.
I was skipping class in the 7th grade.
What?
Yeah, dude.
There was one girl when I was.
I'm not proud of this, but it's just funny.
There was one girl when I was in the 8th grade, so middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th. When I was in the 8th grade, there was a girl in the 6th grade who got pregnant, man.
That's crazy. I didn't know anybody get pregnant at that age.
You were skipping school. You could have been out there getting girls pregnant, man.
I wasn't. I definitely was not.
Good for you, man.
No. I mean, back then, I didn't think it was good for me. Now I look back and I'm like, it's probably good that I wasn't, getting chicks pregnant in the 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't trying to get girls pregnant in the 7th and 8th grade. In the 9th grade was a different story. Then I was trying to get them pregnant.
Were you trying to get them pregnant, though?
No.
I know a guy who had his first kid when he was 14.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Double fuck.
He's 28 now, so his kid is the age, when he had him.
That is rough.
It's crazy.
Although my father and grandmother are only 13 years apart, which is weird.
That is crazy.
It is weird. It's like something nobody ever talks about. Nobody ever talks about it.
is a different time, man.
Yeah, you can say that, I suppose. Yeah, but it's like that excuse works better when you're talking about like Genghis Khan raping all the girls of the Eurasian steppe. You're like, yeah, it was a different time, you know.
Oh, I think it works better
I'm talking about
for
1958, bro.
No, I think it works in some ways better for 1958.
In what way?
Well, I mean, you really don't see like somebody's talking about Genghis Khan, they're talking about mass rape and murder. You know what I
It
mean?
was a different time. It was a primitive time, Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Women didn't have rights back then.
I guess I was critiquing it more on a basis of like comparing the two things, not necessarily the time. Was it is that a defense? It was a different time.
That's kind of the point I was making.
Yeah.
Like, I think the further back you go in time, the more legitimate it seems as a defense. But I don't think it's a defense. Period.
But that's kind of my point, though. Like, I don't think it's a defense either for things like genocide and mass rape and things like that. But when it comes to like cultural things, like
let's talk about that. Let's talk about the age at which a woman is married.
Mm-hmm.
Because in olden times, they were getting married much younger.
Yeah.
And in cultures that are more like religiously conservative, or maybe just conservative in general, it's still that way. You know, like women in the Muslim world, you know, they're getting married off when they're young teenagers. That's pretty common.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think that happens in the Amish community?
Probably,
right? Because they gotta have. I mean, they want to have a bunch of kids. You gotta optimize the time that your childbearing years, man.
Yeah, I'm sure that some kind of betrothal thing probably happens. Maybe they're not like actually married for a while, but
yeah, betrothal. So it's like one of those like you say mine and then
dibs.
Yeah.
Basically, is that the point of it? It's like no one else. She's off limits. Yeah. Don't even fucking look, dude.
Mine.
Is that what it is?
Probably
is that the whole point of that? No.
Do you think
I like that better? That's funny.
Do you think that there's a lot of I don't know if a lot. Do you think there's premarital sex going on in the Amish community?
That's a good question. I'm sure there is probably. I bet you it's like dramatically less than amongst the general population.
I think so.
But I bet you there is.
Because I wonder if those people have more anonymity and privacy, given that they're not exposed to the technology and putting themselves out there like we are. Can they get away with more? Like in the barn? It's like
in the barn.
Yeah, it's like Jebediah banging what I'm trying to think of another biblical name. Ezekiel's girlfriend. Do they have those? Do you think in the Amish community they have those sort of teenage dramas where there's premarital sex going on and one chick's going after the other?
I would love to know.
Buddy or cousin. Everyone's related. That would be even worse because in the Amish community it's much closer knit, right? There's a lot fewer families because they're Amish, man. Nobody wants to be
Nobody wants to be
Amish.
I think there's an appeal to the Amish lifestyle.
100%.
Yeah.
I remember, this might be coincidental, but you remember that movie? Probably not. We might have talked about this once before. It was Tim Allen and Christy Alley.
Oh, yeah.
And they were like rich New York
I can't remember what it was called. It's like Going Amish or something like that.
No, it was called like Till Death. No, not Till Death. It was called
Going Amish.
Anyway, they go and they live within an Amish community. And I remember, it might have been around that time because I would have been a kid. I remember thinking to myself, like, how challenging it would be, like, as a test to just go out and live on an Amish farm for a couple weeks and just say, like, look, I just want to experience the lifestyle. I'll help you with the farm work. You're going to have to teach me, but I'll do it my best. And I'll like, earn my keep. I just want to see if I could do it.
Yeah.
That idea was in the same category as, you think you could get through basic training, join the Marine Corps, Do you think you could do that? It was in that same category. It was like some sort of a challenge of my mind and body that I was interested in,
Yeah.
Going Amish. Or in the military.
Going Amish, like just that title brings to mind like like some kind of a weird porn, like like a Bang Bros porn where there's a chick and she's sitting on the couch, and there's the guy talking to her, and she's like, so like you ever been with an Amish guy? And then this guy like Jedediah walks in the room,
just hung like a stallion.
Yeah, exactly.
With the weird bowl cut.
Yeah, and he's like fresh off the plow.
God damn, that would be a good.
Fresh off the plow, back onto the plow.
Fresh off the plow. That's what it would be called.
No, it would be called Going Amish.
Going Amish.
Yeah, that could be like the subtitle for part 2. Fresh off the plow.
It's weird, man. It's like, can you imagine? I'm imagining like a James Bond villain or something, but you remember that movie Taken with Liam Neeson?
Yes.
Imagine that scene.
Got a particular set of skills.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Imagine that scene where they're all the like Saudi princes or whatever, all the people with all the money that are sitting in that room, and they're parading out all these sex trafficked girls. They come out and they like display themselves, and then they're bidding on the girls. Like those rich people with terrible kinks and the power and the lack of conscience to be able to do something like that. Imagine that, like the way that the Romans used to bring in exotic animals to fight in the arena. You're bringing out Amish people, and you're like bidding on them as sexual novelties. Like, have you ever been with an Amish? Have you ever been with a Yoder? That's weird.
That is weird.
But there's a market for novelty. There's always a market for novelty.
Yeah, somehow the Amish like get looked over and things like that. Though,
they do. Yeah.
Although I would be curious to know how much like sex trafficking. Like, are any Amish getting sex trafficked? Hopefully not.
No, hopefully not.
I mean, obviously, but like it'd be interesting for when I say hopefully not. I mean that I think it would be interesting for my like personal set of values if like that kind of close-knit community prevented that sort of thing, because I think that it will, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think so. But it doesn't protect you from the inside. It doesn't protect you from the community. The community protects you from, insulates you from the outside, from the beasts in the forest. But it's not going to protect you from the wolf in the sheep's den.
The beast beneath the boards.
That's the one.
The
thing is,
it's a reference to House of the Dragon, by the way.
Oh, nice. I just watched episode 1.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
It's a good show, man. Tonight is the last episode. So
point is, man, anyways. do you think like what kind of sexual impropriety do you think goes on? I just imagine, like, I hate to say this about any community, and I hate to point at like a religious community like the Amish, but there's just like suspicions. There's suspicions like what the Catholic Church gets away with, and in a community that is not open to the eyes of the public, you just don't know what's going on, and you wonder how much nefarious shit goes down in a community like that.
They are kind of like notoriously closed off too, like when you were talking about that TV show, it's like, I don't know if they would do that. They probably wouldn't do that.
No.
You'd have to get some like Mennonites.
You have to
pretend to be Amish.
You have to get some Mennonites on a Rumspringa.
Exactly. That the Jedediah in the porn video, he was definitely on Rumspringa.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's like a similar situation with religious cults, especially communal type things. And you know what goes down in those cults is always some shady shit. It's always some shady sexual shit, or some scheme that pulls resources out of dupable seekers of spiritual guidance.
Yeah.
A community full of schlubs, and you're taking all their money, and you're having sex with all their ladies. And I just wonder, like, is that same kind of pattern unfold in a community like the Amish? I don't know. It's a good question.
It is a good question.
There's been a lot of shows. I mean, I don't know if it's been recently, but there's been a lot of shows where they like reality shows where they will follow Amish people, either the kids that have left for Rumspringa or the kids that have left the community. Period.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And I remember a show. Some dude named Moses, I think his name was he was an ex Amish person, and he was like a contractor. Of course, he was. He was a construction building trades guy.
Must be so nice to use like the drills and everything now.
So he started his own business. He got out. It was hard for him. The whole show is all about his story. It was hard for him to get established. He finally does. He meets a nice girl. He has kids. He has a family. Once he gets established and he has some resources, he starts helping other Amish kids who are trying to leave to make it easier for them to leave because he had it so hard without any help. He's like, I'm going to give these kids help. Well, then they bring in a TV camera and they're like, let's watch this. And it's interesting. And there's several shows like that.
Yeah.
Breaking Amish.
I did not know that.
Any of these?
No, man,
Okay.
not really.
Yeah.
Breaking Amish?
Yeah.
Are they cooking meth?
Breaking them out of Amish land.
To cook meth.
I remember the kids, the boys in particular, were always super eager to drive cars. That was really fun for them. That was like.
I was just thinking that, man. Imagine like your only method of transportation is a buggy with like one horse in front of you, which actually sounds pretty cool. You know, like I would like to drive around in a horse and buggy.
Yeah, but it's so. I mean,
I don't want it to be my only option though.
Clip clop.
That's for sure.
Clip clop. This is as fast as you're gonna go.
I was thinking about when we were talking about the construction worker guy, the contractor. Like imagine I was talking about drills and shit, but imagine that horse and buggy, and then you have like a Ford F-350, you know,
Mustang.
It's got fucking Bluetooth and
yeah, man. Yeah. So so they were big on cars. They were big on alcohol. They would get nothing but drunk.
Yeah.
And then they would fool around with girls, and a lot of times they were the Amish girls, but not always. Sometimes they were English girls, and they would all live together to save money and like trailers and shit. And it was interesting.
Did they get jobs and shit?
Yeah, they would get jobs. I think they were working on
Did they keep those goofy ass Amish haircuts, or did they like?
No, I don't think they did.
Because that's like a dead giveaway.
You couldn't tell that they were Amish,
really,
apart from the fact that they were svelte. All of the guys were like in really good shape because they work hard on a farm their whole life.
Yeah.
Compared to irregular Americans, you're like, this person is from Europe. What's going on here? They look way too healthy. And then the way they talk.
Yeah,
they got a little bit of you would call it an accent, but it's very subtle. They're really good at sounding American, but back home they speak Pennsylvania Dutch. It's like a German language, right? Whatever they speak. And I don't even think their language is spoken in Europe.
I don't think so.
That brings me to another topic, Kyle.
What's that?
Cultural diversity.
Okay.
This is a high horse that sometimes I like to get on. It seems like the environment is changed enough for me to bring this up again. It's less sensitive. There's this idea that white people, in particular, don't contribute to cultural diversity. That seems to be pretty accepted. That white people don't contribute to cultural diversity. Would you agree with that?
White people don't contribute to cultural diversity. Anybody who says that needs to go to, and you're going to have to wait basically an entire year, but honestly, you could probably find something else for this, but look at what's going on there, because Oktoberfest is like a German thing, but more specifically like a Bavarian kind of German thing.
See, even that's an interesting statement to make.
Yeah.
Bavarian isn't the same as lots of other subcultures.
But so yeah, it's a Bavarian German kind of, that's where it originates. But what it is, when I went to the last Oktoberfest I went to, there were like Polish dancers there. No, to say that white people don't contribute to cultural diversity is, it's R-worded.
Yes. Now, agreed. What would you agree that is a more or less accepted culturally right now?
Oh yeah, no.
Okay.
Sadly.
So I think that's true. It's in the same category. To say that white people don't contribute to cultural diversity is in the same category as saying black people can't be racist, because both things are said, and they're both completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I think the Amish raise an interesting case in point, especially in America, because this is a big melting pot. And I think one of the biggest tragedies about that is it's that white people are all lumped together and called white people. Black people are all lumped together and called black people. To some degree, Asians are lumped together and called Asians, and they lose all of their distinction among them. And it's something that we do. It's like, you're going to create a whole other culture that you have to assimilate to. We're going to call this American culture. And it's not like it was planned. This is a natural, organic thing that happens. And people from all over the world come together, and they got to figure out a way to jive. So they come up with a common culture that allows them to live together and have common values and work towards similar goals. and all that shit, speak the same language, and all that is important and it's good. But as a result, one of the unintended consequences are we lose track of our history. We no longer see the differences among ourselves, and it's precarious. It's
Yeah.
fucking dangerous.
Yeah. I do think that this kind of prevailing culture, cultural idea that white people don't contribute to cultural diversity is making that true. I think a lot of white people kind of, through for reasons of guilt or whatever, kind of accept those things as true. They like internalize it,
They do. It's
and then
weird.
it becomes true on some level.
That's also weird and true. It becomes true on some level, only that level isn't true. But because it's a consensus enough, it has this pseudo truth. It has this power to persuade, and it's fucking weird, man.
I think it becomes true in a literal sense too, because I think a lot of times when people accept an idea like that, they kind of reject. They just want they tend to be the kind of people that's just like Starbucks. Like that's
Yeah.
white culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, white culture. That's corporate American culture. It's not white culture, but but
Yeah, white culture.
To get back, well, to get back to the Amish as an example of cultural diversity. Here you have a group of white people that everyone else in this country, for the most part, is comfortable calling white people, just like every other white person, and yet their first language isn't English, right? Um, they have clearly a unique genetic stock. When you look at like an Amish person, I don't know if you've noticed this, but they have a particular look.
Yeah.
There's like I said, there's a much smaller gene pool, and when you see Amish people, they look, I think, noticeably different than ordinary Americans. And it's distinct. It's like if you ever see somebody from Ethiopia, for some reason, Ethiopia, those people have a very unique look. And you can put an Ethiopian right next to a Kenyan, let's say. I will pick the Ethiopian every time. They have a very particular look. So you have somebody who clearly, with the example of Ethiopian people or Amish people, you have an example of people that have a distinct genetic lineage that's obvious to the naked eye. Familial relations that you can detect with the naked eye. They speak a different language. They have a very minority religion, right? Very, very, very few people practice the religion that they practice. They check every single box of a cultural minority group. And everybody in this country, more or less, would be comfortable saying, in a lineup, that's a white dude, that's a white dude, that's a white dude. Make no distinction between the Amish person, the first generation Scandinavian immigrant, the sixth generation Italian American. Make no distinction between them. And I just think that is a tragedy. It's a lie. We're telling a lie. We're propagating a lie that says all white people and all black people are the same, and it is a terrible thing. I mean, this little booty here, this little traditional booty, is made of.
I love some traditional booty.
It's made of uh, reindeer. I think it's reindeer. It's traditional shoes that my wife's father got from his father. They're from Finland. They're traditional shoes. This is traditional garb. It looks very much like something you might see a Native American person wearing. You might imagine in certain parts of the North, right?
Yep.
This is a traditional garb from a European culture. This is something that's unique to Finland that would not be the same for Germany or the Netherlands or Sweden, right? This is cultural diversity. And we've forgotten that certain white people used to wear shoes like this.
Yep.
And I just think it's some sort of weird lie that we're telling ourselves. And anytime the culture wants to believe a fib, I think it's dangerous.
Why do you think that lie is being, perpetuated?
I mean, I guess.
Do you think that that lie is being perpetuated, first of all, or do you think it's like an organically spreading idea?
I think it's both. I think that there's a very real pressure in America, especially in the early days of this country, in the 1800s, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
even the early 1900s. Immigrants who came over here had a very strong cultural motivation to assimilate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the immigrant parents would send their kids to English speaking schools, and even though the parents and grandparents wouldn't always learn English or wouldn't always learn it well, they wanted their kids to learn it. They wanted their kids to become American, to learn the culture, to play baseball, to to do all the things Americans do. And I think that is a sort of whitewashing. You're intentionally whitewashing away culture. Every American who's been here more than a couple of generations knows what that means. Anytime you want to go back beyond your great grandparents, in genealogically speaking, good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck. Nobody knows. Nobody knows, and nobody seems to care. And I think that may boil down to this incentive to assimilate that happened, during the early days of our country. Now, I think it's a political. I think it's being grabbed a hold of for political reasons. And the thing is, well, politicians have a great way of penning one side against another as a way of keeping people fighting with each other rather than putting their attention on what the politicians are doing. I think that's a very intentional political strategy. Keep people fighting internally, and you can do whatever you want. Everyone's occupied, and that's what the culture war is all about. And there's no effing surprise, Kyle, why every time there's an election cycle, leading up to it, why are there always cultural tensions? Why are there always social issues being brought to the forefront every fucking 2 years? I think that's the new angle on it. We're going to use this whitewashing of culture. And by the way, it's not just white people that are affected by this. Black people are in exactly the same boat, and even worse because those people have less cultural memory of where they came from. They were whitewashed even worse because of the slave trade. So black people in America don't have any idea where they come from or what their cultural heritage is. White people generally don't either, and that's useful when you're trying to divide the country between two sides to get them to unanimously fight with each other. Well, you need to somehow find a way to break them up into two pieces, and race seems to work great. So that's what they're using now. Um, and I think that our um, what we've failed to hang on to from our own cultural heritage is being used against us. It's a weakness that's being used against us. And in this country, people just don't know. Like, ask an ordinary American about world geography. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. We don't know. We don't have any idea what it was like where we came from, or that there's that level of diversity. And the point you made about Bavaria earlier is a great point. Like, my family on my mom's side comes from Germany, and I had this vague idea that means a few things. It means beer steins, and it means it means
Really weird porn.
It means caca porn. I'm just thinking like things that are German, right? It means like
Wiener Schnitzel.
efficient engineering design. It means a certain things. But if you're from Germany, you're laughing at that.
Yeah.
You're like, no, this region is all about this, and we're like this over here, and there's very little that we all share in common. We have this certain umbrella, and what they would refer to as that umbrella is nothing like what I'm pointing to as an American. We have a serious ignorance about that, and some of that is intentional, and some of that is chalked up to the declining intellectual atmosphere, lack of curiosity and lack of education. But either way, that shit's being used against us. What say you, Kyle?
I think that it is being used against us. I think I just wonder like what is the end game? Is control the end game, or is there like something else? Is there another reason why they want us to drop any kind of identifying characteristic. You know what I mean?
I just imagine it has to do with control and governance.
Yeah.
The more uniform you are, the easier it is to control. You know, if you look at cultures that are homogenous, like Japan or Sweden or something like that, very low crime, tremendous amount of cohesion in the culture. I mean, very clean streets, respect, mutual respect. There's lots of things about really homogenous cultures that are appealing. And I think that it would be much harder to imagine the Japanese overthrowing their prime minister than it would to imagine a multicultural society like Brazil doing something like that. What are the odds? So I think it has to do with control, and if you look at what are the politicians getting away with that like why would pitting us against each other benefit them? Why would they want to do that? And you just follow the money. You just see, these people get to work jobs that on the surface to me seem like they're popularity contests that require almost no work, almost no actual work from them. They never have the competition or the trials and tribulations that most people have to go through day to day just to survive. Meanwhile, they're putting themselves in positions to benefit astronomically from all sorts of deals and advanced knowledge of what legislation is going to affect this particular industry. Meanwhile, you got people like Nancy Pelosi's husband making a boatload of money on that kind of information.
Yeah.
So there's serious reasons why these people want to stay in power, and it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't find it to be honorable. I think there's like a couple of different types of survival strategies, kind of a high level, and one of the survival strategies is to lie, cheat, and steal, and it works until it doesn't. And as long as it works, it's way easier than the alternative, which is to work hard and make sacrifices and to take risks, and to plan and to, you know what I mean? So there's always going to be those people out there, and politicians that are lifelong politicians, every one of them, as far as I'm concerned, maybe not every one of them. There are a few. I don't want to make a blanket statement like I was going to, but a very large majority of them are using that cuckoo bird or whatever strategy where they're lying, cheating, and stealing as a way of conserving energy, conserving calories. How do I do as little as possible and benefit as much as possible? And I think career politicians, by and large, they're using that strategy. It's dishonorable,
Yeah.
compared to a politician.
No argument here.
Compared to, I don't know, like Ron Paul, and I see
It's the one.
I see a different strategy. I do see a lifelong politician,
Yeah.
but he also is a medical doctor and had a full career of working as a medical doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems like somebody who can't get a leg up. He can't even get, like, he's got the whole machine working against him when he was trying to run for president. It's shameful, like what happened with Bernie. Shameful even with Bernie. The whole system working against him because nobody wants honesty. Nobody wants a authentic attempt at governance. We just want to keep the status quo. It's dishonorable, man.
Yeah. I mean, fuck Bernie, but I agree. Yeah, I think a lot of people think that the entire system was working against Trump. And I mean, in a lot of ways, the system was working against Trump, but Ron Paul would have never, I mean, Donald Trump became president, like he was president for one term. Ron Paul, there is no way in hell he would have ever become president.
That's true.
I mean, he was just way too disruptive.
Ron Paul's way more dangerous than Donald Trump.
My God.
To the status quo.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, he would have, taken like a convertible ride through Dallas. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Which would be a tragedy.
Terrible.
Ron Paul's the man.
Ron Paul is the man.
You remember when he had a stroke on his show?
No.
You didn't hear about that?
No, tell me about it.
He had a stroke. I mean, he hosts the Liberty Report.
Yeah.
And he had a stroke on the show. Yeah.
When was this? How long ago was this?
Maybe 2 years ago or something.
Wow. Jeez.
Yeah. Somewhere in that area.
That's incredible.
Yeah, he was back like 3 days later or something.
See what I mean? Honorable.
Yeah, honorable. Yeah.
Oh boy.
I was gonna say something.
But you've forgotten it?
Yeah, that was an epic rant.
Yeah, I'll do that if you let me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll do that.
It's a good one, though.
I do think we should start using the word dishonorable more.
Yeah, just like
put it out there. It's biting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if somebody like in an argument with like a stern face, very serious, called you dishonorable?
It's fighting words.
Boy.
You're a dishonorable man.
We should bring it back.
Doesn't have the I don't know, there's just something about it that it doesn't have like the pop that I'm like, you're a bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, but it's also not played out like you're a bitch.
I guess.
Like, you're absolutely dishonorable, sir. Doesn't have the bite, but it
seems like you're about to slap them with your glove or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
You should do that.
I bet that hurts way more than it seems like on the Looney Tunes.
I bet it does, but I think I'd rather get slapped with a glove than like kneed in the head. You know what I mean?
Slapped it with a glove. Those were, I'm sure those were like leather riding gloves back in the day.
Yeah.
Those. I mean,
that was I'm sure it didn't feel good.
You ever like catch a football or a basketball on the face and like trying to catch it and it just, or like somebody playing dodgeball whipped one of those rubber ones at you? You ever get smacked in the face like that?
I've gotten hit in the face with a basketball before. I'm the guy who, if I'm in a gymnasium and people are playing basketball, I will always get hit in the head with a random basketball. It's like
like a magnet.
They have like a homing beacon in my head or something.
Yeah.
I
know what you mean. Point is, it really fucking sucks. I remember one time it was raining and Brian and I were playing football in the neighborhood and he just chopped one way up in the air, like a high one on purpose. And then you're like looking for it, and I ran over and dove, and wasn't the most athletic guy. I dove for it, and I just kind of out dove it, and the ball came in and just smacked me in the face, and it was a little bit wet. Oh my god! It was like somebody smacked me in the face with with like a rubber. Those things that they slide pizzas in and out with the pizza oven. Imagine one of those made of rubber. Just smacked me in the face with it, man. That's what it felt like.
That's crazy. I have this memory of playing football, like touch football in the recess yard when I was in like 4th grade, something like that. And I was so bad. It's like basically they snap the ball. Everyone's a receiver. You just run out there and the person quarterbacking, throws the ball to someone. And every now and then, against their better judgment, the person quarterbacking would throw me the ball and I would drop it every damn time, dude.
That's the worst.
Yep. And this one time I remember he threw it to me and I had to jump to get it and I caught it. And I remember I didn't land on my feet. I was falling. Oh, no. It was in like slow motion, dude. And this is how I remember it. It's an early memory that I have and it's like very vivid.
Really?
I remember it feeling like it was in slow motion while it was happening, falling. And I caught it. It was like between my legs.
So when you tell me that story, there's one that comes to my mind, maybe similar. I must have been I was younger than 8. I must have been like 5 or 6 years old. I was on the playground. Some kid, he did like a cartwheel into me. His foot kicked me in the nose.
Damn.
And
did you do that on purpose?
I don't remember.
Yeah. That's a cool fight move if you did.
Yeah, absolutely. He caught me in the nose and I was just gushing blood.
Oh, damn.
And what I remember was one of the teachers, because they had a couple of adults back in the day, would have a couple of adults just stationed sentinel at different areas of the playground, just watching, making sure nobody was getting hurt, nobody was fighting. And one of those ladies sees this happen. She comes over, she grabs my hand, she's taking me into the office, And I remember just walking through the
just dripping.
The thing is, I had a white T-shirt on, and I just remember it was red.
Damn.
All the way down the middle of my shirt, just red. Also a vivid memory. I don't have much else that I can remember. Just really just walking, holding that teacher's hand, walking to the office and looking down and seeing that blood on my shirt. That's really all I can actually remember from that story.
How old would you say you were?
Probably like 5, 6, maybe 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
I don't remember any nosebleeds. My nose didn't bleed that often. I never got clocked in the nose like that either.
I used to have just nosebleeds for no reason.
Every now and then I'd have one of those, but it wouldn't be that bad. You know, the air gets dry.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was sleeping over at my grandpa's house, and I guess I was picking my nose in my sleep, and my nose was bleeding.
Oh man. So I've been watching that Jeffrey Dahmer documentary.
Yeah. I haven't watched any of it.
Well, so Netflix has 2 Dahmer documentaries, and my wife and I started watching them one, and then we switched to the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been kind of interesting because one of them is a dramatization of, it's like a reenactment of what happened. So you're like watching a series, and there's no documentary element to it. You're just watching Jeffrey Dahmer's life. The other one is more of a documentary where they're using the tapes, audio tapes, from his attorney's conversations with him in jail, where he just told her everything, just everything. And they use those tapes to piece together this story. And so the reason I bring this up is that my wife likes the dramatization one. Every night she asks me if we could, to turn it on, and I'm like begrudgingly turning it on. I'm like, fine, can we watch the other one? Because I like the other one. I like the one where they use his actual tapes, and I think I know why. So my wife watches the terrible shit Jeffrey Dahmer did, and she's intrigued by the evil. She's intrigued by the fact that somebody could do something like that, and watching it is like thrilling to her, just like if you're watching a horror movie would be thrilling and horrifying. When I watch that, I'm like turning my nose up to it. I'm like, it's not pleasant, man.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to see it. I don't want to watch it. I'm like, I watched it.
Is that show pretty graphic?
Not particularly, but it's just it's I don't know what to say. I could call it gross. I could call it disturbing. Maybe that's the best word. I don't want to be disturbed in that way, especially at night when I'm watching TV. I'm relaxing. I don't want my spirit stirred up in that way. But if I listen to the audio one, where it's like it becomes this psychological puzzle for me, where I'm like listening to him, like, oh, that's what he was thinking. That's what was motivating him. That's what got him there. To me, the whole psychological analysis is fascinating. But as soon as you change from examining his words to showing what he did, I'm like, I'm out. It's not for me, man. Yeah. I just think it's weird that my wife is exactly the opposite. She's got almost no interest in hearing his words. She just wants to watch the crazy shit he did.
It's interesting. It's hard for me to empathize with either of you because I just don't really care about, for some reason, I don't know, the Dahmer thing is just not grabbing me. I tried to watch the first episode of, I think I think it was all dramatization.
It's just called Dahmer.
It's got that kid from the American Horror Story. He's playing Dahmer.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
So I tried to watch one episode of that, but I was like about to eat, and I was like, I just feel like I shouldn't be eating while I watch this. And then I just never got back around to it.
So where I am in the show,
I don't watch a ton of TV shows.
Yeah, that's the difference between you and me. I like to have a TV show to watch, especially something mindless. And I get into the habit of watching shit that I've loved, but I've already watched a bunch of times. So it's like The Office is a go-to, or It's Always Sunny or something is a go-to. Futurama is a go-to.
I'm surprised you aren't watching more like video podcasts, like comedy video podcasts.
Yeah,
they're funny, man.
The only video podcast I ever much watch is JRE and
JRE
and now actually Jordan Peterson. Because his podcast now on Daily Wire Plus includes they're like his actual lectures. So just like what you would find on YouTube if you wanted to watch the lecture on YouTube, but I can watch it in podcast form with a video component, which is exactly what Rogan's doing, which I like. I like, you know.
Yep.
I've been getting into his personality lectures, which I always had more of a preference for Jordan's biblical lectures and his more like Carl Jung type shit. But his personality lectures are pretty interesting. They're like way more philosophical than I thought they were going to be. So he talks a lot about the big 5 personality traits. So weird, man. I just went like this with my fingers when I said that. And that's like, if you ever watch Jordan talk, he does weird shit with his hands.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah. It was very much like that. He's like, I'm trying to come up with
You're picking up his mannerisms.
yeah. I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, I don't either.
You watch strictly YouTube most of the time?
Most of the time it's YouTube. Yeah, I mean, I've been watching House of the Dragon on HBO one night a week.
But sorry to interrupt you. Remember how I brought up Jon Stewart had that show? I thought it was on HBO. It's on Apple TV.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just clarifying that error from 2 weeks ago.
I don't even remember talking about Jon Stewart.
Yeah, I mentioned that he had another talk show just like he had, because we talked about Trevor Noah, I think.
Because I heard Shane Gillis was going to take.
That's right. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. Still bummed about that. But Jon Stewart, I've seen some clips of that show, and Jon Stewart's one of those people where he can say a lot of stuff that I really agree with.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, this guy's smart.
Yep.
And then he says one thing, and I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about, Jon Stewart?
He's bad about that.
Yeah.
So is Bill Maher now. I mean, he's
I'd say Bill Maher's better than Jon Stewart at this point.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Except when it comes to being just kind of a creepy fuck. You ever see any of his podcast?
No.
Oh, dude.
Is he a creepy fuck?
So, what is it called? What is his podcast called? It's called like Club.
Oh, I don't know.
Club Nowhere or something like that.
Sure it is.
And it's just kind of cringe. It's this like, I mean, how old is Bill Maher? He's like 70.
Gotta be, yeah.
So it's like this 70-year-old man trying to be cool. Like they're like drinking drinks, and he's, wearing fucking aviators, and he had this lady on named Bella Thorne, and I think we might have talked about this actually. She's just like this young actress type lady, like uber feminist kind of Me Too person.
Of course she is.
And Bill Maher is just like hitting on her, and it's just really cringe.
Hitting on her like legitimately, or as for comedic effect?
No, like pretty,
yeah,
like for real, and just saying like very awkward, weird things.
Oh boy,
yeah, you should watch it. It's hilarious. It's like from front to back, it's entertaining.
Oh boy.
I feel like you don't really enjoy stuff like that necessarily, though. Like the ironically,
it works better for me if I already dislike the person.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like somebody who deserves it.
Yeah.
But I
like, look at this idiot.
But I know what you mean, because my I don't seem or embarrassed or whatever. I don't like that.
What if they don't feel embarrassed about it at all, but you think it's embarrassing?
I don't like embarrassing. Embarrassing is one of the worst emotions. I hate it. I don't enjoy it if it happens to me. I don't enjoy it if it happens to other people, unless, like I said, unless I really feel like you deserve it and it feels like justice. Like, you fuck.
Yeah, be embarrassed.
Be embarrassed,
motherfucker. Yeah.
Yep.
Why were we talking about that?
I don't know. I want to tell you about this little book, though.
That's a good-looking book.
I don't know if you can see this on the camera. So this was advertised for me on Amazon, and it was the only time, maybe not the only time, but one of the only times the algorithm has worked, because The Neverending Story is one of my favorite movies of all time. And this book is in, obviously, the movie, in the old bookshop where the little boy, where Bastian is hiding from the bullies, and he goes into the bookshop, and this book's landing under the desk.
It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Oh, God, you should watch it. In the movie, the book is much bigger. It's this bigger leather-bound book, but it's got the aura in here, this symbol. The reason I show it to you is because it's awesome. It's the actual book, and it's awesome. It's just like a prop for me, but it's so cool. I had to spend the money. It's so cool. It's just particularly nostalgic for me. But here's why I wanted to bring it up. Remember how we were talking a few weeks ago about, I think he was talking about these books, these old books that I bought from, I collected over the years, mostly from Half Price Books. But I buy these old books because I like them and I like the way they look. And like I bought Spinoza, and I had sat on my desk for years and years and years and years and years. And then when I started getting more deeply into the Carl Jung stuff, the Jordan Peterson stuff, the mystical experience stuff, I learned that Spinoza was one of the key philosophers in that train of thought.
You already had it,
and I already had the book. But lots of the books that I had ended up being like that, like Hegel's philosophy and just a whole bunch of others. And I thought, like, that's a weird coincidence that this thing that's overwhelmed my interest at this point in my life, I had this sort of symbolic and important piece of it this whole time. You know, like my mom, I was talking to her the other day. She reminded me of this story, which changes every time she tells it. Like I get younger and younger every time she tells the story. But there's this event that happened. I woke up early in the morning on the weekends. On Saturdays, remember we were growing up, that was cartoons in the morning.
Fucking A.
It was like,
man,
that was before there was cartoons like regularly available all the time. But Saturday mornings, it was hours of cartoons in the morning. So you wake up, mom and dad are still sleeping. You go pour your own cereal. You spill milk all over the counter. You sit on the couch, or you sit in front of the TV, Indian style, and you're eating your cereal and you're watching the cartoon. Well, Sunday wasn't like that. Sunday didn't have cartoons. So you wake up on Sunday and it was like a preacher on the TV. So I'm sitting in front of the TV watching.
For me, it was a preacher in front of me.
Yeah. I'm sitting in front of the TV watching a preacher on TV. The preacher says, if you want to be saved, just follow these instructions. And I'm this like 5-year-old kid.
Like, I want to be
or
saved.
Maybe younger. I don't remember. Like, I want to be saved. So he's like, put your hand on the TV. So I put my hand on the TV and I pray this prayer with me. So my mom comes walking down the hallway, and she sees her little boy sitting praying with his hand on the TV to this preacher. My mom thinks that this is a sign that I'm some sort of Messiah figure, that I'm going to be some kind of preacher when I'm grown up. Why am I telling you this story?
That's hilarious.
It's just another weird coincidence where the rest of my life, my deepest interests were going to get wrapped up in the idea of God, and it still is. And you have this foreshadowing. You could think of it that way. If you were writing the docuseries about my life, you might put that scene in there, right, as the beginning of my fascination with this idea of God or whatever. I tell you all that just to say there's these weird coincidences that I can point to and say, it's so strange that I was exposed to that then, when this is what happened later in my life. And I don't know if those coincidences are just coincidences, or if there's something beyond coincidence going on. So before I move on, what do you think of that?
I just really love the image of you as a kid with your hand up on the TV. That's funny as hell.
Yeah.
As far as there being like coincidence, I don't know, man.
So just take this about the Spinoza book as an example.
Yeah.
Do you think it's entirely accidental that it appealed to me at that time and became important in a whole different way, 15 years later?
Maybe. I think that I just don't think it. I see where you're coming from, but I also don't think it's like that big of a. You bought old books, you know what I mean? And it's not like you picking up that Spinoza book gave you the access to Spinoza that you wouldn't have had otherwise. You know, when you started learning about, when you got deeper into the panpsychism and stuff like that, you would have found out about Spinoza and you could have bought it on Amazon. You know what I mean?
True. Well, I guess what I mean is, like in a Petersonian sense, was there something that I recognized subconsciously, let's say, that was shining? Like how Jordan says, your interests are like a light that shines or glimmers in the darkness, and it brings your attention to them. You're pulled towards something that interests you, even though you don't know why you're interested in it, and you don't even really understand what interest is. All you know is something is appealing to you, like a good gravitational force. When I was looking through that stack of old cool books, I picked Spinoza. I'm just wondering, do you think there's any likelihood that it shone to me somehow?
Did you read any of it?
A little, yeah, but it's really dense and interesting.
Yeah.
The whole beginning of the book is like a list of mathematical axioms. He's like, this statement is true, so therefore all of these other statements must be true, and it's like pages and pages of that. And I'm like, fuck this, you know. So I haven't really gotten as deep into Spinoza as I would like to, because it's just a trudge to read it. The point is, do you think it's entirely coincidental, or do you think that it's possible that there might have been something more going on in my selection of that?
I think it's possible. I do tend to lean towards more that it was probably just like coincidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That doesn't mean that the meaning that I attribute to it post hoc, after the fact, isn't cool and significant.
Yeah, no,
it's
absolutely.
Just, it might not have been,
God,
supernatural. But the reason I bring it up is because I didn't realize until I ordered this book and it showed up that the Orin, that the symbol on the Neverending Story, is an Ouroboros. It's a very complicated Ouroboros, but it's an Ouroboros. It's a serpent swallowing its tail. It's the unified circle, the self-contained thing, and the Ouroboros has become the symbolic image of my quest, this new phase of my life, this mystical phase of my life. The Ouroboros is the symbol that represents that quest, the quest for God, and I just thought this movie that I fucking loved growing up happens to have this same symbol in such a prominent position, and I just wondered, like, that's a weird coincidence, but is it? And I don't know. So I'm asking, like, the Ouroboros is a symbol that is cross-cultural. It's very ancient. So it's something that's been around a very long time. And you see it in the yin yang. That's the Ouroboros. You see it lots of places. So it's not like out of the realm of possibility that I would encounter that symbol in one form or another, and then it's completely coincidental when I find it appearing in some other place. But it just seems significant, like the way that schizophrenics think things are filled with significance. That's how it seems. Like it's significant, for a reason, and I noticed it. And look how clever I am that I noticed it.
Yeah.
I don't know, just bringing it up.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely cool that it's an Ouroboros. I didn't know that either. Like, I noticed it when we came in here and you had it sitting there, but until then, I don't think I could have told you that.
It's a cool little copy of that book, man.
It is.
I have another one upstairs. It's a copy of The Hobbit, and it's a really cool. It's like one of those. What was that? Barnes and Noble. You know how Barnes and Noble used to make those like classic books, but they would make versions of them that were really cool looking.
Yeah.
I have one of those of The Hobbit.
Cool.
It's got like this silk bookmarker that's sewn in, like this one does. It's really cool. So anyway, I'm going to read them to my kids as soon as they're. I tried, man, but they don't have the patience for one chapter.
Even the older.
Even the older.
Yeah.
I kind of like teach her. I'm like, look, when I read you the story, because she's learning to read, so she wants to read.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of want to read to her and let her picture it, right? Like that's the greatest part of having somebody tell you a story. It's to not have to do any work and to find yourself suddenly in the world of imagination, following along with the story. That's what's cool about watching a movie when you get sucked into it, or somebody telling you a story. So I'm trying to teach her, like, close your eyes if you have to. Don't get distracted. Listen to what I'm saying. Try to picture it. And she's like, she's too hyper for that. She's like, fuck you, I want to read it.
Yeah.
And then when she reads, it's slow. It's not fast enough and cohesive enough to like have the story play. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's slow and stuttered, and then you got to like once you've read the one sentence, then you got to like kind of read it again fluidly to understand. It's difficult, when you're learning to read.
Yeah, absolutely. especially with like, I mean, I know that's like still a kid's book, but there's like full sentences, you know. It's not like
Oh
a,
yeah.
it's not like a.
You know what I love about this is the first couple of pages, the end right here, and it just stops mid-page and it says the never-ending story. And then on the next page, you're in Fantasia. How cool is that, man? God damn, that's cool.
It's pretty cool.
All right. So anyway, I like this more than maybe the audience does, so I'm gonna put it away.
Never Ending Story was pretty sweet.
Loved it.
I didn't. Was it a book before it was a movie? Is that like
That's
book?
a great question. I don't know.
What is the content in there? I mean,
it's the actual story of the movie. So it's Bastian's mom dies. You know, he goes to the school. Where he's running from the bullies. He gets the book. He goes to school. He starts reading it in the attic. Yeah. And he finds himself in Fantasia. Or not, he doesn't, but you know, he gets sucked into the book, and then the rest of it's the Fantasia story. All that's in there. You know, it's. So I don't know if it was a book first or if they adapted it, but it's so cool, man.
It is pretty cool. What books? I mean, what other books are you like trying to read to your kids?
That's a good question. I had a desire years ago to write children's stories.
Yeah.
Like particular ones. I wanted to see if I could take these really important mythological stories from ancient history and make them into like an entertaining children's story. And I put not as much effort into that as I thought, but I started with Gilgamesh. I wanted to do this Gilgamesh as a children's book, because if you grew up learning those sorts of stories, like Greco-Roman stories, that stuff's going to be so important in understanding other literature and art and culture. It's important to know those stories, and a lot of people know those stories. Not as many as used to, but some people do. Nobody knows Gilgamesh. Nobody knows, those Babylonian stories anymore, or the Egyptian stories anymore. Point is, I never wrote those, so moot point. But The Hobbit for sure, Never-Ending Story, and The Princess Bride.
All right.
How about you?
I don't have any kids.
I know you don't have any kids.
I would definitely want to read The Hobbit to them if I had kids. Probably Harry Potter too.
Yeah,
I love Harry
Potter.
Thought of that. Might be better just to let Jim Dale do that though.
100%.
I mean, that's so good.
So my ex-wife, when her daughter was learning to read, I went out to the library and I rented 2 copies of The Sorcerer's Stone and 1 copy of the audiobook on CD, and I did exactly what you talked about. We both sat down, we read along together in the book, but we let Jim Dale do the reading.
Nice.
Because why would you not?
Yeah, Jim Dale's the best.
Jim Dale's the best, man. If anybody likes audiobooks, Jim Dale's the man.
Yeah, if you don't know who Jim Dale is, he's a guy who reads audiobooks. I don't know any other audiobooks that he's done, to be honest with you. I'm sure he's done other ones probably, but
I bet they're terrific.
It's a masterpiece in Harry Potter. Speaking of Harry Potter, I listened to we talked about Jay Dyer a couple weeks ago. I listened to him and his wife kind of that's one thing that Jay Dyer does a lot of is like breaks down cultural things like movies, things like that, TV shows. And him and his wife talked about the Harry Potter and wrong a lot of it. Like and I have a lot of respect for Jay Dyer. He's a super smart guy who puts out a lot of really good content. But the Harry Potter stuff, I was just like, you're just wrong about a lot of this shit, man. So that was frustrating.
Yeah.
Although I think my appreciation for Harry Potter is, I used to say that Tolkien is the king of fantasy, and that J.K. Rowling is like behind him, but not by much. And I don't really believe that anymore. The gap is pretty big. Tolkien was like something else, man. It was like
well, it just depends on what measuring stick you're using.
Yeah.
Because there's ways in which Tolkien's world is far more intricate and flushed out and hard created than Rowling's was, but Rowling's had far greater appeal. And how do you
did it?
Oh yes, Like if you, I don't know what the statistics are, but I would say if you were to look at how many people the world over historically have read Harry Potter, it's more than Tolkien, even though Tolkien's been around since the 40s or 20s or whatever it was.
Maybe that might be true. I like honestly don't have a hard time believing that that is true, but I also would not be surprised if that's not true because Tolkien, the Lord of the Rings series was and has been and is still massive.
It is massive. It is massive. But Tolkien never got a 10-year-old to read a 1,000-page book.
I don't think that's true. I think that Tolkien did get 10-year-olds to read those books.
Boy. Well, they're not 1,000 pages, first of all. The Hobbit and
they're long ass books.
They're long ass books.
Yeah.
The Hobbit is the most what's the word? Of the Lord of the Rings, like the Lord of the Rings are in a different category. The Hobbit is way more of a children's story.
Yeah, he wrote it specifically for children.
Right.
Yeah.
Rowling did too. So I think that a kid sitting down to read Harry Potter is going to have an easier time getting sucked into that universe than the Lord of the Rings. Maybe not the Hobbit, but the Lord of the Rings. But I think that more than the Hobbit, man.
Maybe. I think that when Harry Potter came out, you're definitely correct. I think that back when Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit came out, though, I think that that was like fantasy and that was interesting to kids, and they didn't have Harry Potter yet to like make it even more accessible. You know what I mean?
But I think accessible is the word that I was looking for. I think that Rowling had a leg up on Tolkien as far as accessibility.
Maybe. I think that Tolkien benefited from the time. You know what I mean? Because he didn't have to be as accessible because people were different back then. You know, they didn't have the access to all of this stuff that was like more easily digestible.
Right.
So what they had was Tolkien.
Yeah.
I would like to know the book selling stats between the Lord of the Rings series and Harry Potter.
Yeah, that's a good question. But even the book sales, I wonder how you would quantify the number of people who simply have read it. That's what I want to know. And book sales is probably your best proxy, but not entirely. And also, audiobooks is a whole different dynamic because a lot of people listen to books now.
True.
Obviously, they're listening to Tolkien now too, but you know, Harry Potter was like right on the beginning of that, where it would have been easier for kids to consume, or even adults to consume those books because they weren't required to read them; they just listen to them. You know, if you factor in audiobook listens, I wonder.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. I do. At the end of the day, though, I do think that Tolkien is, you know, significantly better, especially just in terms of like even the writing. You know, the actual words on the page, the prose or whatever you want to say. Yeah. There's just some like really moving stuff in Tolkien.
Yeah. Tolkien has integrated a great amount of European mythology into those stories, which is something that you can't exactly say for Rowling. Now, there's very like appealing qualities to what Rowling did, using a lot of like Roman names, first of all, like a lot of Latin names. That was cool. You know, what she did with the Latin spells is cool, but compare that to Elvish, which Tolkien invented, night and day. I mean, like, to come up with a handful of 12 different Latin names for spells is not the same thing as coming up with a writing system and a language that Tolkien can give to the elves. I mean, that's tremendous.
Yeah. So I heard that all the stories that Tolkien wrote is, you know, he was a philologist. He was a linguist by trade. I think he taught English at one of the like Cambridge or one of those universities over there.
Yeah.
And he invented these languages, and the stories that he wrote were like, you know, stories to explain the development of these languages.
Oh, that's very cool.
It's interesting.
That is very cool. That's an interesting way of writing a book, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's incredible. He was also buddies with C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
And he was also incredible.
Yeah. I lean more towards Tolkien a little bit than C. I mean, don't get me wrong, C.S. Lewis is fucking awesome, but I definitely like Tolkien more, I think.
So I don't have as much exposure to these other people, but there are fantasy authors, hugely popular fantasy authors like Neil Gaiman and Robert Jordan and Anne McCaffrey and people like that. That I wonder how they compare to Tolkien and Rowling and C.S. Lewis and those people.
Yeah, I've never read any of. I've read a little bit of a Neil Gaiman book about the. So what I'm looking for. The people up north, the like Viking type people, Norse. The Norse mythology. He did like a novelization of the Norse myths. Yeah. But that's it.
Remember when Anne Rice did her books about Jesus?
Vaguely.
She had her Catholic spell, and then she went back to being an atheist before she died.
Man, sure. She should have stuck with it, dude.
It's just a couple more years, she could have been in heaven.
Yeah. You know? It's a shame. Now she's down there in hell with her vampires.
So interesting what you said about Jay Dyer. Because if you don't know what's true when he's talking about Catholicism and Orthodoxy and Islam, whatever, when he's talking about those religious things, if you don't have the knowledge to question what he's saying, his arguments can be compelling, especially because he's a very smart guy, but also the way he talks. He's convincing, you know. Mm-hmm. But you hear him talk about Harry Potter when you have a different opinion, and you're like, I don't know about this guy. Yeah. So I wonder if that would color your opinion of him.
Been a while since I listened to it, but I think it was not necessarily opinion type stuff. It was just like factual.
Oh no,
you know? Yeah, worse. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
Worse.
Yeah. So.
I have a list of things I wanted to bring to you last week. I don't know if you want to jump into it, but
let's go.
One of the things I mentioned was that I was seeing a lot of signs, cultural signs, that the culture war and the woke stuff that we've been dealing with for the last 4 or 5 years, I don't know if it's been quite that long, but definitely since the last couple, it's all wrapped up. There's been signs that stuff's starting to wane. You know, so we had like a whole series of things. We had the Me Too and the Black Lives Matter, and there's just been a whole wave after wave of cultural tension, you know. And I'm starting to see signs that things are easing up. And then last week, when I had to cancel on you, a lot of this stuff was a little bit more relevant. Over the past week, there's been efforts by the media at a minimum. There's been efforts by the media to downplay some of it, which is the Kanye stuff, so I want to talk about it a little bit. I have to also say that I used to give Kanye a little bit of a hard time because my only reference when somebody brought up Kanye was what he did to Taylor Swift at the Music Awards.
Yeah.
I just thought this guy is such a schmuck. Yeah. And I didn't listen to the music, so I didn't have any other way of that was my only datum for understanding Kanye. Anyway, lately he's been a very different Kanye. He's been kind of interesting, you know.
Did you see him on Tucker?
A little.
Yeah.
A little.
It's pretty good. I mean, dude's all over the place, but.
So I wrote down some things. I want to go through some of these, and maybe we could talk about some. The first one maybe we already talked about, but Tulsi Gabbard leaving the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
She made that announcement. She encouraged other Democrats to leave with her. And then she went on the biggest podcast in the world and said it again.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think it's maybe a good sign, but I also think that Tulsi leaving is like less impactful than, I don't know, obviously Nancy Pelosi leaving would be like that would be crazy. But, you know, Tulsi was kind of already on the outside. She wasn't even in any elected office anymore.
But it's symbolically still, it's symbolic, right? It's still symbolically significant.
Yeah, it is. I don't know.
Well, she's somebody that was on Joe's podcast before. She ran for president before. She had the support of Joe, which is nothing to shake a stick at.
True.
And she was seen as a intelligent and moderate Democrat. that had broad appeal. A military lady, woman of color, as I'd like to say on the left. She was checking lots of boxes, and yet they didn't give her the time of day, which is another one of those things that is hard to explain. But she's left the party, encouraged other people to leave the party, and on top of that, she's now campaigning, helping to campaign with certain Republicans.
Which Republicans?
That information I don't know, but that's all really interesting to me, man.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see which Republicans.
Yeah.
Because that will tell me a lot. If it's like, it's not going to be. This is like probably too good to be true. But if it was like Rand Paul,
oh Jesus,
you know, Thomas Massey, that would be cool.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's gonna be fucking Dan Crenshaw or something, who is the worst.
You think so?
Oh my god, Dan Crenshaw sucks, dude. I hate Dan Crenshaw. That's a strong term, but I mean it.
I don't remember like much that he said that ever like really rubbed me the wrong way. He's not a war hawk, is he?
Oh yeah, of course he is.
Well, he was a military guy, but I don't know if he was like
no, he's not a good one.
No.
Which is why so Tulsi has been the kind of like reach out, like, oh, I'm moderate, I'll talk to Republicans. And I feel like Crenshaw is kind of like that a little bit too. Like he is, yeah, I just don't like that guy. That's basically where I land on.
Okay. He's got an eye patch.
He does have an eye patch.
He
does have an eye patch.
All right, how about this? Here's another article that I saw the other day. Federal judges refuse to hire Yale grads after they protested a free speech event. So you have Yale grads who need these internships with these federal judges. They're prestigious positions that will lead you into a life of success. And these Ivy League kids at one of the best schools in the country made a fuss to all these judges as activism. And these judges are like, wait a minute, how am I supposed to hire law clerks who don't believe in free speech? And then they just won't hire you anymore. And they publicly are saying, we're not going to hire Yale grads.
That's awesome. Fuck Yale.
It's awesome because of course, if a law student doesn't believe in free speech, they cannot uphold the Constitution,
Mm-hmm.
And if the most prestigious law schools in the United States are teaching law students to not honor the Constitution, that is a huge problem.
True. Seems like a step in the right direction.
Interesting, man. I feel like that could not have happened a year ago.
Maybe.
If the federal judges say we're not hiring Yale students a year ago,
it would be a huge issue.
It would be a huge. I mean, maybe they still could have done it, but it would have been a huge deal.
Yeah. You don't think it is a huge deal now?
Oh, I think it's a huge deal. I suppose.
So what's the difference between now and then?
Well, it's whether I think it's a huge deal or whether the media thinks it's a huge deal.
Oh.
A year ago, there would have been an uproar from liberals saying, this is a travesty of justice.
Why do you think there isn't? Why do you think the news isn't trying to push that?
Because I think the tide is turning. That's what this is all about. So we've talked about Tulsi leaving the party. We've talked about the federal judges saying these woke Yale law students are an existential danger to freedom and democracy, which is the truth. Then you have Kanye and Candace Owens coming out in their White Lives Matter shirts. Now, I don't know the full story. I just saw the picture. Do you know the context surrounding that?
They were at some kind of like fashion thing. Yeah. And they had that shirt on, White Lives Matter. And the front of it had a picture of Pope John Paul.
Oh, I didn't know.
I think it was John Paul II, the most recent John Paul,
mm-hmm.
Before Ratzinger, whatever, Benedict. And, Pope John Paul II, I think it was, I think it's John Paul II. Either way, that guy, the one from Poland that everyone seemed to like,
mm-hmm.
He's got like, I don't know, like a kind of a reputation, just of being a good pope.
I would agree with that.
So I just think it's funny that they chose him to put on there, and it said the front of it, I guess, in addition to the picture of him, it said, "We will follow your example."
I like that.
So that's interesting. You know, we only saw the white people or white lives matter. Yeah.
It's true. That's interesting. But it's also interesting. It's like, I don't know if a white person could wear that shirt without getting ridiculed or doxxed or suffer some consequences. I don't think a white person on the street or in public life could wear that shirt a year ago. Maybe not even today. But Kanye and Candace are black, and they were able to do it. And I think that is awesome because it's obviously true. And there's no difference between Kanye wearing a White Lives Matter shirt and some Midwest grandma wearing an All Lives Matter shirt because she doesn't want to get wrapped into the BLM stuff. But like I said, there's a line, there's a social line right now that's hard to fucking define that a white person could never make that protest. And Kanye did, and I have to respect him for that, man, because he's 100% right. All lives do matter, and we can't pretend like black lives don't, and we can't pretend that white lives don't. And people are trying to do both, and it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think acting like a particular group of people's lives don't matter, it's a dangerous thing to do, you know? Like you run the risk of those people, I don't know, retaliating.
Yes, you also run the risk of dehumanizing them, and that opens the door for all. See, that's the thing, man. When you dehumanize a population,
bro.
It reminds me of what I've heard people say about the Vietnam War. They said that I can't remember, man, where this comes from, but it was something I remember. So I'll just put it with a grain of salt. That said that when during warfare, when people are fighting people that look like them, Europeans versus Europeans, let's say, it's much more difficult for people to kill. But when they don't look like you, like Europeans over there fighting, the Vietnamese, that there's a little bit less resistance to it, and you can make it even less resistance by dehumanizing them on purpose, by calling them Kong, by making them not individuals, by pretending that they're not even human. And that's what you do when you dehumanize people.
Yeah.
You make them something that you can kill. You make them something that you can that is expendable. And that's exactly what happened in the Holocaust. And we're pretending like the white hate that's going on in our country right now isn't doing exactly the same dehumanizing thing. And you can see it. You can see all the violence that's taking place right now. People getting punched out in the subway, people getting shot, there's all kinds of shit happening on the grounds of racism now. And that's evidence that we're following the same path that happened in the Third Reich. We're following the same path that happened in the Vietnam conflict. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's definitely not good.
So, good for you, Kanye and Candace Owens.
Yeah, I like Kanye. Kanye is I've liked Kanye for a long time. That Taylor Swift thing, first of all, fuck Taylor Swift. I mean,
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean?
Taylor Swift is the best. Listen, I'm not a fan of pop music, but Taylor Swift has been doing it since she's a kid. She plays her own instruments. She writes her own songs. Nobody does that. And she's beautiful. She's a talented human being. Full stop.
I guess. Yeah, sure. I just don't. What she doesn't move me at all. Does it you? Are you like rocking out to Taylor Swift?
Listen, I've only ever heard the popular songs. I'm not like I've only ever heard whatever's on the radio. Never disliked a Taylor Swift song. Never, not once.
There's a difference between not disliking something and
enjoying it.
Yes. Do you enjoy Taylor Swift?
I have enjoyed a Taylor Swift song or two, and plus my girls love Taylor Swift, and
that's something.
It adds a dynamic to it. But I still, even without that, think that Taylor Swift is a talented artist.
Sure. I would say that Taylor Swift is a talented artist in a lot of ways.
And she deserves her fame and fortune, I think.
Well, I don't begrudge her fame or fortune. I just don't. This let's all walk on eggshells and be like sensitive about Taylor Swift and like
is that a thing?
With Kanye. Well, with the Kanye thing, it's like I just don't really care that he did that. Like I just don't think it's who cares.
Well, the reason I cared at the time is because it was rude.
Because it was
It was so rude.
See a black guy treat a white lady like that? You're get the fuck out of here.
He was not invited. He was not invited on stage. It was not his time. He inserted himself, and because why? You have to be very entitled to think that you can just insert yourself into this public show that's on the air, and then say some begrudging shit about the lady that just won the award, and then say publicly it should have been another lady, and it all came off as very racist because it was a white lady who won the award. Kanye who comes up and says it should have been Beyonce.
Do you still perceive it that way after current events?
I don't know if I don't think it was fair then to assume, nor is it fair now to assume that was the case. But it seemed that way to me at the time. I was like, what the fuck? It just seemed like arrogant and what's the word? There's another word I'm trying to look for. I just couldn't believe the balls on that guy.
Well, I mean, it is Kanye we're talking about. Dude's got balls.
It was like similar to what Will Smith did, walking up on stage and slapping Chris Rock.
Does seeing how Kanye is behaving now make you understand more? Like you said, it takes balls to do that. That like this guy has balls.
He's got balls, yeah.
Yeah. So
I
think in some ways, like him doing that to Taylor Swift was like he had an opinion that Beyonce was better, and I'll go out on a limb and say that I agree with that. I'm not like a huge Beyonce fan or anything, but I think that I have enjoyed more Beyonce music than I have Taylor Swift music.
I don't know.
And I do think that there's like some kind of like juice that Beyonce has that Taylor Swift I don't think has.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're both very talented. I think this is a silly conversation now, but I think that Beyonce may have a more powerful voice than Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I don't know that Beyonce writes her music. She definitely doesn't play an instrument or write her beats.
I don't know that she doesn't play an instrument, but
I'm going to go out on a limb and say she doesn't. I'm just going to do that right here publicly. I don't think she does.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if she does.
She's a better singer. She's got a better voice. And
sure.
She's a beautiful lady. Just like, Taylor's a beautiful lady, but they're both beautiful ladies,
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking physical looks, I would definitely lean more towards Beyonce too. But Taylor Swift is pretty. But
all right, hold on, there's more on this list.
All right.
So we got White Lives Matter, we got Tulsi Gabbard, we got the Yale grads, Kanye and Candace Owens, White Lives Matter.
You have to understand though, like the reason we're digging into that is because I do think that there's like elements of Kanye's personality that are present in the things that he's doing today that were there in that too.
I can see that now. I can see that, yeah. Because I know nothing about Kanye, and I just like lots of people with popular figures, we treat them like they're not complex.
There were words that you used to describe Kanye: entitled and arrogant, and I think that Kanye is all of those things.
Yeah.
But I think that they're like almost like positive attributes.
Entitled is never positive.
No, I think it is. I think that American culture from day one is entitled. I think that we are all entitled.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but I don't think that's good.
No, I think it is good.
In what way, dude?
We are entitled to our, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Why do I have guns? Because I'm fucking entitled to them.
Correct.
You have, go fuck up.
Yeah, you're entitled.
Take a walk.
You're entitled to those things. You're not entitled to insert yourself where you weren't invited. You're not entitled to something you didn't earn. You're not entitled to.
I mean, okay, but I just don't understand how, like, Kanye going up there and saying that, it's like, what does that have to do with not earning it?
Kanye, I would assume that Kanye believed that he was important enough as an artist and as a public figure that his inserting himself in a place where he didn't belong was not only acceptable, it was desirable. He made that determination all on his own.
Yeah.
For America.
Yeah, I think he was right.
I don't.
Yeah.
Because that was my only view of Kanye. Because, like I said, I didn't listen to his music. To me, it made a terrible first impression.
Yeah.
Terrible. I think one of the biggest problems in society today is that we lack respect and politeness. People don't obey the rules. People don't feel like they owe you any honor or respect, and it's a very big problem. And celebrities are the worst among them because they are conditioned to think that they actually are. See, it's like there's something that I would call confidence that we might be mixing up with the word arrogance right now.
Okay.
Right? If you say that Kanye is legitimately such a good artist and such a novel thinker that his contributions to that or any topic are valuable, that he could confidently insert himself because he legitimately has something to add to the story. There's a way of seeing that as confident, and there's a way of seeing that as arrogant. And one way, confident, might be a positive. Arrogant, in my opinion, never is. I don't know where there's a very fine line there.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it is.
Yeah. So I think that, you said that Kanye made this determination all on his own, and that's true. But I do think that in that world, it was like a music award show.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that Kanye does. I think that he's not supposed to, obviously. That's not, in the award show, you're not supposed to run up there. But I think that his opinion does matter. And I just don't, at the end of the day, it's a fucking music award show. It's not important at all.
That's a slippery slope, dude, to say that.
Why?
Because the next time it's just an award show, then you say it's just a political campaign, it's just a debate, it's just whatever. You're going to make excuses for the behavior. I'm not okay with that. I'm more conservative than you when it comes to that.
Okay. I don't know.
Like you seem to be okay with parsing out a segment of culture or society and saying that Kanye has special permission in this realm. I don't. I'm like, you play by the rules everywhere, every time. And if you don't, fuck off.
That. No, I don't agree with that. I think that, I don't know. I think that on some level, it's like some people do have special rules and special privileges.
There's some Ayn Randian shit in there that I'm like having trouble totally brushing off.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to break the rules because sometimes the rules are stifling.
I'm not even talking about in a moralistic sense necessarily.
Me either.
I'm talking about that's just the way things are.
It's progress. I'm not talking about moralistic necessarily, but like I'm just thinking of an Ayn Rand hero. Somebody like that is like what we're talking about with Kanye. You would call them arrogant. You would call them confident. You would call them entitled,
sure,
and presumptive of their role in the niche that they cut out for themselves. I'm the king of this niche. I'm making Reardon Steel, bitch. This is my niche.
I do think that there's something to that entitled thing, though. That
something positive?
Yes.
Listen, I know I agree with what you say when you say we're entitled to life, liberty, and property, or life, liberty, and happiness, pursuit of happiness. I agree with that. That entitled doesn't seem like a bad word there, but entitled, like in the terms of entitlements, like when I think of things that people think that they deserve just because somebody is compassionate enough to offer it to you, it doesn't mean you're entitled to it, motherfucker. If you didn't earn it, it's like in most of human existence, if you didn't earn it, you died. You starved and you died.
Yeah.
But now if you don't earn it, there's enough resources and enough compassion that people will take care of you to a certain degree. And people think that they are entitled to that after a while. And that is a dangerous, dangerous proposition.
Sure.
So that's the side of entitlement I'm talking about.
I think that entitlement also pushes people to attain things. I'm that, so I'm gonna take what I mean.
I do, but you act like that's a good thing.
I do think it's a good thing
because I think that to say you're entitled to life, liberty, and property, I'm with you. I'm like, defend that shit. But to say I'm entitled to almost anything else, I'm like, you're being presumptive. You're stealing. You're stealing.
I don't think that follows all the time.
Not all the time, but even in a situation like this is a rough topic. But even in a situation where we're talking about public welfare,
okay,
there are instances where every citizen in this country would agree that if you have a little old lady who worked hard her whole life and ended up in poverty and old age, that she should be taken care of. If she doesn't have family, let's say, to do it, that we have a social obligation to take care of her. And I don't think there's a soul that would disagree in that situation that's wrong. But we all know that there are people who abuse that, and that's the type of entitlement that that's an illustration of that lie, cheat, and steal survival strategy. Like, I am going to be a leech on the system rather than work, even though I could.
I know what you mean, but I think there's something to the idea that entitlement is what changed.
Because you could call them rights. You don't have to call them entitlement, what you're talking about.
I guess. I mean,
inalienable rights.
I think that a sense of entitlement is what pushed people to change things. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm entitled to better than this. You know what I mean?
I don't think so. I don't think I would call it entitled. I think I would call that wishing. Everybody's wishing for a better life. Everyone's wishing for.
No, I think that people feel like in a state of, I don't know, like nature, that they would be able to have better if there weren't certain things, certain trends and forces pushing them, downward, that they would be able to have more, and that they're entitled to that more.
Yeah, I disagree, man.
Yeah.
I just don't think, I think you're entitled to your shot to attain what you want. You're entitled to a shot, but you're not entitled to what you want. You're entitled to a shot to get it for yourself, but it doesn't come without effort, and that's what I take issue with.
If you have it, if you can get it, you're entitled to it, basically.
Ooh, dude, it's funny because sometimes you bring up philosophical ideas like you just did that are interesting. Years ago, we would talk about like practical anarchy on this show, and that's something like what we're talking about now. Because what you're talking about is what's that guy, the Leviathan, Thomas Hobbes, and he said exactly what you said. He said that in the state of nature, might makes right. Basically, he said if you can take something, if you can, then you can. It's not about right or wrong. It's if you can, then do it, because that's what nature says. If you have the power, if you have the ability to do or have something.
See, I think that there's truth in that, but I don't think that you can throw right and wrong out. I don't think, I think that if you can, you can, but there might be consequences to that have negative effects for you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So.
Well, I agree with that. Even see, Thomas Hobbes' explanation was that if you have the power to do something, then that's it within your realm of right. But you give up those rights with the social contract. So that's where that comes in. He says, if you want to live together with other people and you want to have peace, then you have to say, look, even though I can smash you and steal your shit and your wife, I'm going to not do that as long as you promise not to do it to me or anyone else, and we can live together under those rules. So you give up your natural right to take what you fucking want and can, in exchange for peace and cooperation.
Good. No, I was just going to say the problem with that is that you give up your right to do that. A lot of other people don't give up their right to do that, and they just throw a cloak on it of I don't know, state violence, whatever. There's lots of cloaks that people put on it to make it okay for them and not for you. But
see, that's the thing. It's like, that's why I'm so stringent on following the rules, because you're right. There are people, while everybody else is following the rules, who choose not to, and now they have an advantage over everybody else who's following the rules, because they've chosen the lie, cheat, and steal strategy, the cuckoo bird strategy. I'm going to lay my eggs in your nest and make you fucking raise my kids. That is dishonorable, man. And there's, especially in our country, a little bit of room for some dishonor. There's a little bit of room in the system for a little dishonor, because so many people are doing the right thing. So many people are noble that there's a little bit of padding for the assholes. And that's okay for a while. but not forever.
Yeah.
And the more people see the assholes have more than me and they do nothing, the more people go over to the asshole side. And then at some point, the whole house of cards comes tipping over.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so stringent about the idea that even in the perspective of the social contract, that everybody needs to obey the rules, at the minimum amount of rules.
So there's part of me that agrees with you. There's a big part of me that agrees with you, but there's also a part of me that thinks that if you're up against an opponent who's not playing by the rules, if you choose to handcuff yourself by playing by the rules, you're going to lose.
True, but that, don't you see how that upsets this? It upsets the equilibrium. It's like, why have a system if you're only pretending that you're giving up rights to have a social contract? Because if somebody doesn't do it and you say, oh, the rules are out the window, so I don't have to obey them, then the whole society comes crumbling down.
I just think part of me almost thinks that the way to avoid this is to have stricter punishments for breaking the rules.
I like what's the dude's name we talk about? Molyneux. I like Molyneux's solution. Yeah. If you break the rules, you don't get to participate in the society anymore.
Yeah.
You can still live here, but you can't take the bus. You can't buy groceries. You can't buy insurance. You can't work anymore. You're excommunicado, bro. You got to find a new place to be.
There is part of me that likes that too, but also, if that was coming from like a top-down thing, that's authoritarian as fuck. That's like.
But you remember that conversation we had about law versus social
yes.
rules?
Yeah.
The social rules are way more effective.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be law. It doesn't have to be top down. You can say, look, you've broken the rules. Now you're marked. And it's not the law and the government saying we're going to force you to leave by gunpoint. Me as a private business owner is going to say, oh, you're one of them assholes. Find a new store to shop at. Are you one of those assholes? Find a new fucking hotel to sleep in. And that's enough. The social pressure is enough to demand a certain level of behavior.
Do you think that that's kind of what corporations and stuff are doing now, only to different ends?
Yeah.
They're pushing us towards, in America, in the West, I should say, these giant corporations, and it trickles down to like mom and pop shops, are pushing an agenda of progressivism.
Yeah. It's kind of a peer pressure thing, but yeah, and more than that in some cases. Like I was afraid for a while that I might lose my job because of the vaccine, the COVID vaccine, for a long time.
It's a word that you're not supposed to say on YouTube, just so you know.
You can't say it.
Isn't that fucked up?
Not even if you're talking positively.
It throws up. Well, I mean, if you're talking positively about it, but
geez.
Yeah, no, like there's all kinds of words. Like I'll watch certain people and they'll spell words instead of saying them out.
Jeez, man.
Yeah. That guy Jay Dyer is actually pretty big on that. Like there's certain words that he won't say on his YouTube stream for fear of demonetization, which we don't have to worry about.
We don't have to worry about that.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, maybe.
You have to get like 100 subscribers before, like, so if you go to like Joe Rogan's YouTube, it's like youtube.com/JRE or something like that. You have to have 100 followers before you can do that. Before that, it's just like random.
Interesting.
There's like all kinds of like follower count things. I think maybe 1,000 is where you can do monetization.
Oh, interesting.
So subscribe to, we got to find out that information to put on, you know.
We totally, we should be more prepared.
Well, we're just getting started.
So I want to get through this list. There's a lot more here, but before I do, I want to say the whole thing about power. Jordan Peterson tells a story over and over again, so I want to bring it up. So there's a lot of parallels that you can bridge between human culture and other great apes like bonobos and chimpanzees and stuff that live similarly to us. So in social pods and with high levels of intelligence and all that sort of thing. And what he says is that there are big, strong chimps that will take over and become dominant because they're the biggest and the strongest. And they get all the chimp ladies and they get all the best food and all that stuff, right? And Jordan says that in nature, when they watch these chimp organizations, that there are times where those leader chimps will they'll get too big for their britches. And sometimes they'll be aggressive. They'll take it too far. And what will happen is the juvenile men, they will band together and they will kill the big chimp. So even though the big chimp can one-on-one fuck fuck everybody up in the whole community, they will get together, these younger, smaller chimps, and they will just eat the tyrant chimp's face off. So that's also a solution to the problem in human culture. If somebody
eat each other's faces
yeah,
off.
if somebody becomes too much of a tyrant, you
Eat their face.
you eat their faces off. But that seems a little bit contrary to the social contract. It's like it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe there's more than two choices, but
The social contract, I think, is kind of flimsy, to be honest with you. It's doing a surprisingly good job. That being said, I think it's hanging on by a thread.
It does seem that way. All right, let's keep reading here. Kanye on Tucker. So I have Kanye on Tucker, only because one of the things he said was getting some particular heat.
Yeah, one thing.
Yeah, so maybe you know more. But Kanye said to Tucker on Fox News, which is, by the way, got more viewership than any of the other major news networks. Big audience, right? He says that more black babies are aborted in New York City every year than are born in New York City every year.
It's a woman's right, dude. Who the fuck are you to cast aspersions?
I mean, listen, I don't know what to make of the statistic, but it doesn't seem good. It doesn't seem good, man.
Yeah, it's fucked up. I'm laughing because it's, to me, what you're saying is so obviously true that it's fucking terrifying and appalling and heartbreaking that over 50% of black babies are murdered by their mothers. That's fucked up, but for you to say that publicly,
yeah,
that makes you all kinds of mean words. You're
right.
You're a misogynist, you're a racist probably somehow, even though you don't want the black babies to die.
Could anyone other than Kanye have said it?
Yeah, I think a lot of other people could have said it. I just think that it gets a lot more. People say it all the time, but Kanye said it, and he's Kanye, and he said it on Tucker, so it gets really out there.
Yeah.
But people say that shit all the time. But
let me ask you something difficult, and this is going to sound maybe conspiracy theorist like, but I'm not trying to. I'm just asking a hypothetical question here, like a New World Order type of question on this. Do you think? Oh God, how do I say this? Do you think that a statistic like that half of the would-be black children in New York City were aborted before they were born? Do you think the goal of keeping abortion access freely available, widely available, free, all that stuff, because it seems like it impacts, I don't know if this is true, just based on the media, it seems like it may impact the black community more than other ethnic groups. Like more black babies are being killed. Maybe I'm wrong, but
no, you're not wrong.
In New York, that definitely seems to be the case. Do you think that there might be a political aim? It goes something like this. If as a minority group, black people and other minority groups have a certain level of special status or protection or whatever, that we afford to minority groups, that intentionally limiting the population to keep you a minority group might not be intentionally done power, meaning born, they won't be minorities anymore, and then they won't have the protections of a minority group, and you won't have the narrative of minority versus majority, that sort of thing. Do you think that's reaching too far?
I don't know if it's reaching too far. It's an interesting thought. I wouldn't put anything past them, to be honest with you. I also think that the abortion thing, that may be a particular truth in the black community with abortion, but I kind of think that abortion in general is just another play in the, the depopulation playbook. The I mean, it's just so many of these people have been, lots of these people who are involved in like New World Order type schemes have open statements about them thinking that the world has got too many people on it.
That's true, yeah.
And they all do creepy shit like this, like trying to, like pushing abortion. Like the amount of people who think that who were openly saying, I think the world is overpopulated. I think we're on the way towards a real problem with overpopulation. The amount of those people who supported things like abortion and were like directly involved with, the creation of and the normalization of abortion, it's fucking crazy, man. Like they're not playing their cards close to their chest at all.
And it makes you wonder if the predicted food shortages and starvation, doom and gloom in Europe is part of it. Part of that, like, I don't know. Can you imagine that government at the highest level might say, "Look, population is a problem, and people are going to have to die. Let's figure out how to make this happen so that it's the least." It doesn't come back on us. And let's start some wars. Let's starve some people. Let's get abortions.
Let's get some viruses going.
Yeah, let's get some viruses going. I don't know, man. That's obviously very speculative, but interesting.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Congress expected to change during the midterms, so they're expecting a Republican majority to take over Congress. So that's also a sign, right, that things are moving in a different direction. How about the Vanderbilt? Remember we were talking about we played that video of that lady at Vanderbilt talking about how much money the gender reassignment surgeries are making them. Vanderbilt has now, at least temporarily, stopped doing gender reassignment surgery as a consequence of the.
Good. That's great.
So that's that. Also, we had conservative prime ministers being elected. We already talked about that. So in Italy, and then Liz Truss, who's obviously out the window now in the UK. There was a video. Did you hear it? Obama coming out talking about.
That's gay?
No.
Oh.
He was talking
about the big mic rumors were going to be confirmed.
Actually, I have the video. He was talking about how I'm trying to remember what he said exactly. Oh, he said that the Democrats are buzzkills.
Buzzkillingtons.
Yes.
The Democrats today.
Yeah. That their decision to focus on divisive things. You know what I mean?
Give me a fucking break. First of all, Barack Obama was like the most divisive president in the history. I mean, I know that things are divisive now, but it all started with Barack.
I agree.
So fuck him, first of all. Not that I'm defending the Democrats, but I just don't like when people are giant fucking hypocrites.
Yep.
So Barack Obama, the big mic rumor is true, I think, probably.
Yep. Oh, the AOC stuff, her being shut down in public town halls, it's happened more than once now. She's getting a bunch of her supporters publicly yelling at her. That seems like a sign of a changing tide. AOC represents.
What if AOC becomes a Republican?
She would never.
Never say never.
Oh, then there's the stuff about Pelosi's husband in insider trading that's kind of picking up steam. Yeah. The Hunter Biden laptop stuff, that you're starting to see that again. I don't know if that's ever going to go anywhere, but just the fact that it's not being like quashed seems like something. Then we got Bill Maher, who's regularly criticizing the left now. He's regularly doing it.
Yeah.
And he's like the OG lefty guy. Then there's the LA City Council story.
I don't know that one.
So apparently, I didn't get into it really deep, but apparently a bunch of members of the Los Angeles City Council were told that they should resign because a video leaked or audio leaked.
Gangbang situation?
No. Of these Hispanic members of the LA City Council.
It's not a gangbang situation?
Talking in very racist ways about other minority groups.
Oh, really?
So here's the thing. Nobody talks about this, but you've got minority groups. You've got like the Hispanic groups, and you've got the black groups, let's say, that are minorities there, and they're technically on one side of the aisle. But on that side of the aisle, they're vying for power between each other. So you've got these Mexican heritage members of the city council that want to protect and support the Mexican heritage population. They also want to keep themselves in power. And if they're being challenged by other minority groups on the left, then they're going to obviously have conflict. So they were talking shit about black people, and everyone knows about it now.
Yeah.
And I think 2 of the members have resigned, and the third one is refusing to resign.
Yeah.
And now that's an interesting story, but in Los Angeles,
yeah,
I
would love to get some hidden camera footage of the type of things that black people say about Mexicans, because I guarantee you that that's there.
100%. Yeah.
And most likely on the black people who are on the city council, probably them. They probably say that kind of shit.
I think those are everything I have, but I do have one other thing. I know we're coming up on time. One other thing that I wrote down, so I'll just bring it up. I'm not really sure. It's part of the transgender topic, but the chaplain of Kent University, I think this is in England, said this: homosexuality doesn't exist because it can only exist in a binary.
Okay.
So you've got a religious figure, a relatively prestigious one, who's saying that homosexuality doesn't exist because there is no such thing as just a gender binary. So now that we've introduced this transgendered topic, principle, concept into our lexicon, that it's overturned this prior categorization scheme. Homosexual, heterosexual doesn't exist anymore, because homosexual and heterosexual only exists if there's a man and a woman only. Now that there's more, there's no such thing.
I don't really understand why this is good, though.
This one particular one, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just wondering what you think about it.
I think that priest is stupid. No, I'm okay. I think that priest is. I guess I would need to know more about the specifics of what he's saying, but to me, it seems like that priest is just denying reality in an attempt to be accepting. And I think that there is something good about not being accepting.
Yeah.
I think that if you accept everything, you're ruined.
Yes.
So
judgment is critical. I agree. But here's the thing I think. Here's the thing I think about. The church is struggling, with membership.
So let's bring in the gays.
You take a look at really extreme countries in the Middle East, religious theocracies in the Middle East, and there are places where I think it might be in Saudi Arabia, where they have a very high rate of people coming out as transgender. We do obviously in this country too, but in a place like Saudi Arabia, you kind of wonder how much of the popular culture and how much of the social contagion or pressure exists there compared to here. Like here, you think if one kid says I'm transgendered, all their friends might say, me too. But there, it seems less likely because of the conservative religious context. But you have a whole bunch of men in Saudi Arabia that are, I hope Saudi Arabia is the right country. I think it is. But in the Middle East anyway, who say, oh, I'm really a woman. I'm in the wrong body, because they have a huge underground homosexual community, because you can't be gay there or they will kill you. You can't be gay under those rules. So instead, the government, the society, gives them a pass if they're really a woman. So you have this conservative, you can't even imagine a more religiously conservative place than Saudi Arabia. And they're saying homosexuality is a sin. But if you get a surgery, if you're really a girl, then you can be as gay as you want, because it's not gay. I think that is related to what the chaplain of Kent University, what he said. There is no gay. And if there's no gay, anybody who thinks they're gay is now welcome to be a Christian. You see what I mean? I think there's something self-serving going on there, and it's a little weird. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think of that?
I still don't like it.
No, I'm not saying. I'm not asking you to.
No, I know you're not, but I'm just saying, knock it off, priest. Because we got to keep it, I don't know, old fashioned.
I think that should be our sign off for the day.
Keep it old fashioned.
Knock it off, priest.